Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and it is Friday, September 20th, 2024. We've had a very big week because we just had the partial lunar eclipse on October 17th at 25 degrees and 40 minutes of the mutable water sign of Pisces. And that is very emotional and sensitive energy. I asked a student in class, what does Pisces represent? And she said, the ocean. Well, among other things it does, it's an ocean of emotions. It's a way of thinking of it. It's probably the most sensitive of the water signs. All water signs, by definition, the element water, I feel, I sense. But Pisces rules the subconscious mind. And it is about dreams and imagination. On the more challenging level, it could be fears, what you're feeling mentally imprisoned by. And it can definitely exaggerate that. It can feel very lost at sea. Now, with this full moon eclipse, and whenever I've noticed a lot of planets transiting in the sign of Pisces, and I can remember when, approximately 9 years ago, 2015, March of 2015, we had a total solar eclipse on March 20th that was at 29 degrees of Pisces. That is the last degree of the zodiac and of Pisces. And I remember at that time, the north node of Pisces was still transiting in Pisces at that time, by definition. It entered the Neptune had entered Pisces in 2011. Actually, it was the South Node at that time because that was 9 years ago. And it takes 18 and a half years for the nodes of fate to complete their journey. So, but regardless, I remembered a lot of emotional things happening March, April at that time. And whenever there were a lot of planets in the sign of Pisces, people deal much more with mental health and with depression and with escapism, with lack of reality. And then, in September of 2016, it was September 16 of 2016, there was a lunar eclipse. Again, this was a south node eclipse, that what you're meant to release. That was at 24 degrees of Pisces, just a degree off from where it is now. And at that time, again, a lot of heavy emotions, a lot of release. Pisces is the final sign, it can represent hidden information. So a lot of times, if there are a lot of planets transiting in Pisces, if there's a full moon or a full moon on steroids, which is what this feels like, things get brought to light. Eclipses bring hidden information to light. Maybe it's something that we're aware of on some level we haven't been dealing with for several years, and finally it just blasts out, and it just comes to, we just can't avoid it. It just, burst. Or sometimes it's something we had no idea about, because eclipses are like wild cards, and it can be something out of the blue that changes your life forever. But you know that it's very draining energy, especially in Pisces, because Pisces deals with sleep and rest. And now what's happening is we're transitioning from the eclipses in the Aries Libra axis to Pisces Virgo. We're not done with the eclipses in Aries Libra, and eclipses always come in pairs. So therefore, we're building up to a second eclipse, which will occur on October 2nd. That's going to be a total solar eclipse at 10 degrees of the cardinal air sign of Libra. But with that said, we're also in a very big release period right now. And we're speaking back to those eclipses, like I mentioned, because that first eclipse that began the Pisces Virgo eclipses of that time was March of 2015. That was the eclipse at the final degree of Pisces, where Neptune has been transiting this year. It got to 29 degrees of Pisces from May 4th through September 4th. And what's going to happen next year, the nodes of fate are always moving backwards. They always appear to be moving backwards. So on January 11th, the North Node will retrograde from Aries to Pisces, and then therefore it'll be at the last degree of Pisces, 29 degrees of Pisces, where It just has been up until recently, and it's still only at 28 degrees of Pisces. That is a fixed star known as Shiat. That is a degree associated with self-undoing, with suicide, with depression. Again, somebody was asking me the other day, their ex dealt and has dealt a lot with addiction issues, and he's been kind of quiet. Should she reach out? And I think yes. I mean, she should protect herself right now. This is about self-care. But if you're worried about people that struggle with this could be a time where it feels more oppressive. It feels like, how do I get out of this? And even for the rest of us that are kind of in the middle, this can feel like, I had somebody else write who's incredibly talented, that she's just, wanting to give up with what she's doing creatively, and that she just feels like almost, I forgot what she wrote. I have to read it again, but like she's feeling imposter syndrome. A lot of us could feel that. We could have self-doubt. It could feel hard to structure the dream, but this is where I mentioned my friend Swami. He wasn't literally a Swami, like a guru, although many would argue that he was. And he was in the music business for over 50 years. And he dealt with a big personal tragedy in his early 50s, the loss of the love of his life. And for him, he was so in love with music. He was a Taurus with what I believe would be Pisces rising. And he was very intuitive and psychic, and music was his life. He, was brilliant, but it was creativity, it was music, it was his love of his children, but also his love of music and passion that kept him, still going. And, again, he dealt with something very tragic where some people would have maybe given up or not given it their all. It was his love of that. And many now, whether they've endured personal loss or loss of drive, I am just regaining that now myself, in that this summer was really hard with Neptune at the last degree. It was hard to focus. It was hard to have faith. There's a key word for Pisces. The higher level, the more challenging would be fear. The higher would be faith, having faith in what we're doing. Now that we're segueing to the eclipses in Pisces, Virgo, and we're still in Virgo season right now, those are dealing with Pisces is the 12th sign, and Virgo is the 6th sign. And whenever you have planets in opposition, they're always going to be the same modality by default. Therefore, they're both mutable signs. And they both have central themes that are not dissimilar, in that Virgo is about health and wellness, but it's also being of service to other people, helping other people. It deals with small pets. Also, a lot of people that have a lot of Virgo often are, whether they're animal rescuers or champions for animals, they generally love animals. And Pisces also is maybe less practical. Virgo is an earth sign. It's ruled by Mercury, so it's very much the mind connection, because Mercury is your mind, how you think. It's very organized in Virgo. It rules the sign of Virgo. So there's a very cerebral approach to being of service, grounded, being on the earth. Virgo is an earth sign. Pisces could be Swami out there in outer space with his genius, but not always practical, accumulating a million 78s, often 20 copies of the same 78, but it was about sheer creativity. He had a lot of empathy. I remember, when he'd watch movies and there would be a more violent or difficult sign, he'd start to chime out at the TV. Or we didn't really watch movies so much in movie theaters at that point. He'd be like, "Don't do that," to the guy or whatever. "Don't hurt her." He'd chime up. He had a lot of empathy. And so where we're going with this, and I myself felt an internal shift yesterday, because we can go from the vibration of lack and fear. And believe me, I'm not marginalizing the fact that many are struggling. This is a very, very difficult world right now. And, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fear, there's a mental health epidemic that I think is going to be very, very in focus with this lunar eclipse conjunct Neptune. While for some it could be creative bliss, and they could really connect to their dreams. And like my friend Swami, whom I believe definitely had Pisces rising, his love of the arts and of music and of people, because he was a loving person, got him through a tragedy. If some didn't have that same passion, maybe that wouldn't have helped. Maybe they wouldn't have been able as much to be a survivor. He also used to talk about, because he would be somebody, he died at 97, that was a World War II baby, that was a Depression baby, that grew up, that remembered Kennedy being assassinated, all the assassinations in the 60s. He lived long enough to see September 11th and unfortunately the pandemic. This guy saw a lot. He almost lived to be 100. And that generation, no matter how old, poor or rich they were, the movies, which I also equate with Pisces, very much film and music, that was an escape where they could tune out at the movies and be a king and a queen. And I've talked about this a lot. And it just, fueled their imagination. And, now, there are a lot of people, myself included, where I feel almost like giving up sometimes. I feel like I can't do a video today. I can't write an article. I wrote an article the other day. It took me a long time to focus. But yesterday, because I signed up for a manifesting class at the beginning of the year with Christy Whitman, whom I like a lot. Everybody has different people with whom they resonate, but I like her energy. I just, I like her vibe. And some people like Joe Dispenza, Joe Vitale, I like a lot. He's cool. We all have different people with whom we connect, but it was a coaching class that I'd signed up for, not to become a coach, but just to help me with what I'm doing. But again, this year I've been falling astray in many different ways. So I was able to connect with the live class, and it is about shifting from lack to abundance. And again, I'm not being Pollyannic because I'm a Scorpio, which is why I don't know if I want to do this completely from just being a law of attraction coach, but more from the vantage of how do we manifest in challenges. We've got to face what Neptune at the last degree means. I'm a Scorpio. I'm not going to skirt over lessons and things we need to deal with, but that doesn't have to be a lack either. When people deal with great struggles in their lives and they are survivors, there's a beauty, there's a magic in that. That's actually abundance, but it's not skirting over the fact that there might be challenges in the process. That's not to manifest in law of attraction. Yes, it could be more of a seamless process, but as an astrologer and seeing Pluto at the final degrees of Capricorn at the final degree, wrapping up a big story, there are things that we do need to figure out. What do we need to focus on? What do we need to heal? What do we need to build in our lives? Pluto is going to re-enter Aquarius on November 19th. And that is also going to be a huge new direction of change, fast, rapid change. And I was mentioning the film, uh, that how movies got kids through the depression in many ways. Well, that's an industry very challenged. The arts are very challenged, given depression, given loss, given AI. Places like California, where many are moving to other locations for tax credits. This is a scary thing for entertainment. Yet, I think, among other things, love, finding different tools for healing. So now I got a little more back into my manifesting, which when you need the most, sometimes is the most difficult. And I remember the last major Neptune cycle I had personally was around 10 years ago. I had Neptune opposite my moon. In that case, I didn't experience deception. It was my own self deception or delusion, you could say. It was fogging my vision. I was so hyper paranoid about being duped, I duped myself. And so there can be deception with Neptune. A lot of it's getting uncovered. But this is also, again, shifting how you think. Although Virgo may be the analytical, cerebral approach to thinking and the practical and pragmatic approach, Pisces is tapping into your alpha state of mind, in that you're being, when you wake up or you go to sleep, tapping into that part of the brain where not only are you visualizing something, you're believing it's possible, doing affirmations, doing clearing. I've been burning Palo Santo more frequently. I'm going to start doing it every day, doing more things with Feng Shui, Reiki, going to the ocean, going floating. There's so many different things we can do. Going to sound baths. A lot of people are doing that more frequently in local areas. Oh, geez, my cat. And so this is not like Billy that kind of knew the system. These are young cats that don't know what they're doing. But anyway, tapping into that. And so I think it's important to try to shift internally as much as we're able. And we're also seeing eclipses bring things out in our own lives that are huge stories. Look at the P. Diddy story. That is huge. That to me is Pluto at the final degree of Capricorn. And I talked about this earlier in the fall, as did a lot of astrologers, that more people in power would get brought down with Pluto returning to the last degrees of Capricorn, where it's been, oh gosh, since, sorry, I'm trying to manage. Hello, I need help. Trying to get a cat off of here. Pluto at the last degree of Capricorn. That's wrapping up a 16-year story of Pluto in Capricorn that began initially in 2008. 2009 it was going back from the last degrees of Sag to the very first degree of Capricorn, which we're finalizing on November 19th. Pluto happens actually to be the ruler of P. Diddy's sun sign of Scorpio. And it exaggerates when we have eclipses, it exaggerates the transits we're in. I happen to know Pluto is back in Capricorn. He was born with Mars at the last degree of Capricorn. That could be evolving and rebirthing, or that could be a death, whether it's a death of what he lived or whatever that is, power plays or being brought to justice. Karma. Capricorn is karma. If he misused power, which it obviously seems that he did in spades, then that's getting brought in a huge light. And again, another story, we see how eclipses pick up. In September of 2016, I remember that was when Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie broke up. There was that plane flight where she said that he abused a few of the children on the plane. He was drunk. I guess he's now sober. But, in Pisces at that time, that was at 24 degrees of Pisces. Now this eclipse is hitting him, and he's got his sun at 25 Sag, so a mutable degree. I think it's at 25, 24. And a few of his children just dropped his name, his last name. So picking up from that last story. And also it feels like he's now with a new partner that he's out with more publicly. So I don't know all the background of what happened with them, but we're seeing often eclipses can bring stories back up. I don't know what was going on with P. Diddy at that time. Doesn't mean there was something, but definitely, and I'm not putting Brad Pitt in this category of the Pluto and Capricorn, but of people abusing power. And apparently there are a lot of really big names associated with that. And, that brings up echoes of Weinstein and Epstein and when Pluto was squaring Eris not that long ago. Eris is the goddess of discord. She's Mars' sister, and bringing up justice against victims that were misused and were abused. And so that's something. We have the equinox this weekend. So we're going to have, right now today, the sun is opposite Neptune. So again, reinforcing the Neptune energy of, okay, I feel despair, I feel lost, all of that, or I'm going to cleanse my house a little bit today. I'm going to try to do a little bit of manifesting work. I'm going to try to be creative. Pluto and Capricorn, somebody said, which is true, that could be a driving force for finalizing things and projects in your life. That's not all bad. And bear in mind that Mars will retrograde on December 6th at 6 degrees of Leo, and it enters its shadow on October 4th, meaning that it reaches 17 degrees of Cancer, where it will station direct on February 23rd. So it's going to be retrograde almost the first 2 months of 25, which is not great for launching a new business plan, for getting surgery, for really launching new things. It's maybe more of a wrap up, but also Mars is going to be in Cancer a long time, where it's because it's going to return to Cancer on January 6th, and it'll be there through April 18th. It's going to be in Cancer through November 3rd and briefly enter Leo. And so it's in its fall position. It likes being in Capricorn, where it's exalted and focused on getting things done. Cancer's your needs. It's how you get nurtured. It's home and security. So that's a trigger. And a lot of people are getting triggered not only from the lunar eclipse, which can bring the past up. And again, it's the final sign of the zodiac, wrapping up the lessons of all the signs that precede the sign of Pisces, but also letting go. We've got Pluto and Neptune at the last degree. Well, now Neptune's at 28, but Pluto's definitely wrapping up. It's less than 2 months in Capricorn. It's, November 19th, and it's done. And so for a lot of us, we've been working on letting go of old structures in our own lives and things that are keeping us down. And we're all, whether we like it or not, getting acclimated to the new age of Aquarius. And the equinox is going to occur at 10:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And in the northern hemisphere, that's the beginning of the fall equinox. In the southern hemisphere, it's the beginning of the spring equinox, and it's one of two times the sun is exactly above the equator. And in Latin, equus and nox, equal night. So approximately equal day and equal night. And it's the beginning of a season. Cardinal signs launch things in our lives, and they launch seasons. Libra is a cardinal air sign, very much about partnering, but bear in mind that these eclipses are right by the equinox. So we just had this very emotional, releasing full moon eclipse in Pisces. It was a north node eclipse, meaning that we are meant to go towards something new. And the north node was in Aries, which is about having courage to release what's not serving you, to feel some confidence in yourself. That's hammering that in. Chiron, the wounded healer, is exactly at the world point at 22 Cardinal, at 22 Aries. We all feel vulnerability about self, but this is about releasing those fears as much as you're able to charge ahead. Mars is squaring the nodes of faith this week, bringing opportunities, but it's going to retrograde soon. And then it's going to be back in a sign it does not love being in, and it's crabby, passive aggressive, and it also is not that charging ahead. It doesn't charge ahead. So right now, good day for manifesting work if you're able, getting more rest. We've got the equinox at, again, 10:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. In that equinox chart, so earlier in the day, the sun trines Pluto before it changes signs at 2:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's an enabling aspect. The sun in Virgo trine Pluto in Capricorn. Then you have the sun entering Scorpio, where it'll be through October 22nd, the beginning of a new season. And then you have Venus at the last degree of Capricorn, Libra, and it loves being in Libra. It rules the sign of Libra. It will square Pluto at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and then it's going to enter Scorpio at 10:36 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where it'll be, I believe, through October 21st, but it's going to enter Scorpio. So there's a scorpionic energy to this equinox in the sense that, well, Venus, which rules Libra, and we're entering Libra season, is going to enter Scorpio, where it's in its detriment, very, stormy placement of Venus. But Venus squaring Pluto also brings a Plutonian theme, underscoring Pluto in Capricorn, letting go of things that are keeping you from your value, keeping you from creating new things. We're approaching another eclipse because they always come in pairs. A south node eclipse, albeit a new moon eclipse, a total solar eclipse, which is new beginnings, planting new seeds, but it's a south node eclipse and it's close to the nodes of fate, meaning that there's something with the south node you release to find value or to create something new. So there is a letting go in that new moon eclipse. So a lot of revelations, a lot of big stuff, probably more big news around the whole P. Diddy case, because probably a lot of people in power with Pluto and Capricorn are going to get brought to light. And there's much more than just that on the world stage and our own lives, and just processing a lot emotionally and remembering we're letting go of a story from 2008 because Pluto is going to leave Capricorn in, let's say, 2 months, less than a day. All right. Good luck. Hang in there this weekend. I am offering eclipse reading specials. My days are I have a little more next week. I'll post them. And good luck to all of you and take care. All right. Bye bye.